Hey guys, Taka here, and today I want to talk about the benefits and powers of duo play in Path of Exile, not just from a raw economic point of view, but just from making builds feel smoother to play. So recently I've been mapping with my friend Kane, and for the last few characters we've been sort of, not necessarily building our characters around one another, but one of us has been playing a particular thing, and we try and synergize slightly. So this first started when he was playing his Righteous Fire Juggernaut, and most recently he's playing a casting channeling animate weapon Necromancer, and I'm playing a Poison Splitter character. So as I'm talking, once I've explained the base setup, I'll run some map footage of us in the background. Nothing too fancy, but you can kind of just see how the two builds work together. Now, casting channeling animate weapons is easily one of the most powerful builds out there at the moment. It is an incredibly, incredibly powerful build. However, one of the big drawbacks of it, and the reason why a lot of people don't play it, is it's perceived as being quite clunky to play it. So if you don't know, the way that animate weapon works is if there are identified weapons on the floor, so if they're just normal white items or identified any item on the floor, if you cast animate weapon, it summons the weapon up. So if you're playing a Necromancer with a bunch of auras, then you can see how crazy this becomes. Ziz has been streaming it pretty much non-stop since Breach. It's just a very powerful, powerful build. Now, if you're playing a castle channeling animate weapon build solo, the way you have to start your maps is either have like a weapon swap SRS setup to get the first few packs down, because you need the weapons before you can get going, or you need to always carry weapons in your inventory, so at the start of maps you can drop them down. Now, because Kane is playing duo with me, he gets to use a particularly powerful build without any of the drawbacks, because at the start of the map I kill the first 1 or 2 packs, and then the build just kicks off. So as you can see, we go in, it's nothing that fancy, build my frenzies, get some poison going, and now the packs start falling, and you'll see that the animates will start popping up behind him. Now, another thing which is quite good about this is because of the duo play, you can get really greedy with your gearing. So we had Kane running a full item quant setup. All of his slots were just insane amounts of item quant, item rarity, and it didn't matter that he was destroying his survivability and damage, because I was doing some supplementary damage, which kind of made up for the stuff that he'd lost. Because we were able to run so much quant, we could just like farm maces and strands all day and get just constant returns, just insane amounts of returns back after back. Is it the highest clear speed in the world? No, but it's one of those things, if the clear is good enough that you get the returns, and you not only make one build far less clunky to play, but you get the safety of playing in a duo setup. Obviously, if you play solo versus playing duo, builds become a lot safer, assuming you do this correctly. So as you can see from what's going on in the background, I'm playing a build which is very far back, he's playing a build which is generally pretty far back, and the minions just flood everything. Now, as you can see, I can off-screen most things before his minions even get up to it, but the second you start actually running real maps, actual rippy content, or you start running stuff with loads of temp chains and enfeeble, having this like army of just fodder right in front of you is brilliant. Now, even though we have 2 builds which function perfectly fine in solo scenarios and whatever, just by doing 1 or 2 small things, you get insane amounts of power. This is also where the Gull comes into play. The Gull is like my favorite item for the league easily. Not only is it just, from a raw item point of view, a very solid item. It gives roughly about 200 energy shield, up to 80 life, and has a bunch of resistances on it. The fact that the shrines drop and the shrines give such powerful buffs, and if you're in a party play, if one person has the Gull, the shrine will drop. Both of you will get the buff if you're near the shrine when it's clicked. This also means if I'm wearing the Gull and we're running domination, so there are like normal shrines spawning on the map, and Kane clicks on the shrine, because I'm wearing the Gull, he gets the crazy buff effectiveness. So one item offers so much potential power to 2 different people, and it's insane. Now, this is a very, very basic example of 2 plebs running pretty ezzy-pezzy maps, just farming XP, and we're getting very good synergy off one another, and just like that I make his build less clunky to play, and he just carries damage, because the way that animate weapon works is the second animate weapon gets going, it just hard carries. So it's like I start off the map, he hard carries the rest of the map, me doing some damage means he can run full quant gear. Win-win. Now when you start getting to more advanced setups, for example with the first duo we did together, when he was doing his Righteous Fire Juggernaut, we had a character which was applying flammability and enfeeble to everything. Very strong defensive curse. He was also proccing EE. I'm running a Ignite-based Raider. Again, it's this nice synergy. If he's got a build which is up in melee, I get to play pretty far back. He's a Juggernaut, so he was always wanting to keep his endurance charges up. So he's basically just a walking decoy totem. Now, it doesn't take a genius to work out that if you're playing a ranged build and you've got someone in melee who's constantly proccing defensive curses and offensive auras, and is spam taunting everything onto him, that makes your build a lot better. In the same sense, where there's stuff where there's something particularly rippy where he has to go face tank it, the fact that I'm a ranged build, there are some scenarios where I'm like, it's right, just hang back for a bit, I'll just fire off a few volleys and we can clear it out. We had quite a lot of occasions that when we started spamming Beyond, another big weakness of Animate Weapon is when you're farming stuff like Rogue Exiles, Beyond, Invasion, whenever you get like a big scary mini boss pop up at the start of the map when you've only brought in like 2 or 3 weapons, it completely destroy you. Because the whole thing of Animate Weapon is it's a momentum based build. So it's a case of as you clear through the map, you gain more and more power. You're very vulnerable at the start. So if he goes into a map, drops 3 weapons, and then the first thing he encounters is a Rogue Exile, which just AoEs all of his stuff down, he's like, bollocks, I've got to go back and clear it. With me, it's like, no, it's fine, dude, just hang back, I can sort this out. Now, not only is there obvious build and strength weaknesses of, well, really only build strengths, that if you have 2 builds which work well together, it means one build doesn't need to invest into certain items like the goal, you don't need to invest in stuff like curses. From a raw profit point of view, it's very profitable the second you can start splitting your costs. So one of the big things since Breach League has been these like Breach boss farming groups. If anyone watches Twitch, half the streamers, all you're going to see doing is they're just doing like 5-6 man parties, just spamming breaches all day, every day. If you've got a regular group, you can split the costs amongst everyone, and it makes it far easier to get into. A lot of the like core systems of Path of Exile are the rich get richer. It's a setup of you need some initial investment to start chaining a particular thing. Once you have that initial investment, you're fine. Obviously, the second you start splitting your costs among a group of people, it becomes far easier to step into the more lucrative content. And yeah, it makes the game just more interesting. So if you're someone who has got some regular friends and you just sometimes dick around and play maps, maybe think about how can we tailor our builds around each other a little bit more than just the obvious, let's go support. We all know just playing a support is busted. If you just convince a friend to play a support-based Necro, you can take any auto-attack build and suddenly it's got like 300k tooltip damage just because you're stood next to a dude giving you super auras. So yeah, think about, hang on, how can we actually intelligently apply curses? Can we suddenly start farming content we wouldn't normally be able to get into until way, way later? Nothing too revolutionary, but it's one of those things of, if you're someone who has had guys that you used to play with in the past, or you know with the odd person, the second you start doing just any duo content, it makes the game far more enjoyable. So yeah, just sort of an off-topic video which I thought I'd throw out there. I'm Taki, have a good day, bye-bye.